My name is James Greenwood and I'm a small animal vet down in Bristol, and I am currently working with MSD on their Protect Our Future 2 initiative.
Can you tell us about some of the seasonal changes that we can see in our pets' health, just as we're coming into obviously the winter months?
I think as we come into sort of winter months, there's a few things that we need to kind of be aware of. First of all, as things get colder, one of the most common things that we see tends to be toxicities. So as seasonal food kind of hits the table and we're all really excited about things like mince pies and all of these really tasty things that we kind of all indulge in, lots of chocolate hopefully, a lot of these can be really toxic to our pets. So food toxicity is definitely something to be really careful of. And also in cats specifically, antifreeze is another thing that we see each year with people using it either on their cars or around their homes. A common thing that a lot of people don't know is actually people often use antifreeze in pond water for decorative fountains and things like that. And often a lot of cats will go to ponds and that's where they drink their water. So those sorts of things that are really common. As the weather gets colder, you've got to think about things like arthritis creeping in. Arthritis in our pets is very similar to people, so it will naturally kind of fluctuate and wax and wane, and it does seem anecdotally that colder weathers, wetter weather can worsen certain types of arthritis. And again, with frozen pavements, thinking about their paws, a lot of dogs especially will get sort of almost like freeze burn on their paws if you're not careful. So there's lots of things to be aware of. But what's been really interesting with the results of the Big Tick project and the Big Flea project specifically is that we've basically seen that there's this sort of increase in number of fleas and ticks that we're seeing, and especially on our pets, pet dogs and cats. And whilst we traditionally used to think of especially maybe ticks, but also fleas as being quite a seasonal issue, with the changes to our climate, so we're having warmer, wetter and shorter winters, the flea and tick populations are able to now survive pretty much year round. So one of the big take-home messages that we're also trying to get out there right now is that pet owners really ought to be thinking about using an anti-parasite treatment as a 12-month year-round treatment, rather than thinking of it as being a seasonal worry. Like so many things with our pets, prevention is really critical here. So one thing that we know with fleas is that actually, especially with fleas, they can survive quite long in the environment without a host animal. So even just a short break in the anti-parasite treatment, routine, can actually then allow a flea infestation to re-establish itself relatively quickly. So whilst I think the key is to be vigilant, so looking out for fleas and ticks on your pets as a year-round thing rather than only worrying about it in summer.
Is there any health issues for humans should their cat or dog have any fleas or ticks? Is there anything that we can get from the animals?
A lot of people have heard about ticks carrying things like Lyme's disease, Borrelia, which are both diseases that can pass from a tick to a human. So there are definite tick-borne diseases. Exactly the same way that if a tick bites a dog, they can get Lyme's disease. If you also, unfortunately, get bitten by a tick, that can also spread to people as well. So it's not so much that your dog with Lyme's disease is going to give you, as the pet owner, Lyme's disease. It's more that if you're in an area where those ticks have got that disease, then if they bite you or your dog, then you are going to be at risk. So it's worth taking your own precautions as well. Interestingly, on the study, they looked at, I think it's 1 in 3 dogs at any one time are carrying a tick, and 1 in 5 of those ticks are carrying a disease. So there is actually quite a high number of diseases now, ticks now that are out there that are carrying a tick-borne disease. So yes, that's definitely something to take into account as a pet owner. But I think what's maybe less known is that also fleas do carry a health risk to humans as well, to pet owners. So whereas fleas, I would say, are more kind of a discomfort, certainly, with the intense itching that they cause our pets. It's actually quite a welfare issue. And also the discomfort that they can cause the owners if you get bitten by the fleas. But actually fleas can carry flea-borne disease as well. So cat scratch disease, for example, is something that can spread to people if you get bitten by the same fleas that are on your pets.
We're coming up to Guy Fawkes. We've got COVID-19. It can cause quite a lot of distress for animals. So do you have any advice for owners to kind of keep any dogs or cats or any animals in general calm during this time?
Yeah, this is something that really worries me as a vet. You know, we see this every year anyway, and the distress it causes the number of pets is heartbreaking to see. And I think the big worry this year, specifically with the cancellation of the bigger events, is that more people will take to their backyards and let off their own fireworks. So it could actually be even more disruptive this year than ever before. I think in terms of general advice, certainly there is lots of things you can do around the home. So I would draw curtains, I would put the TV on, put the radio on, have noise around the house that they're used to try and drown out some of the noise of the bangs. I like to make a den. So if you have a particular, you know, if you have a dog or a cat that's particularly nervous, giving them a safe space to hide away to is a really useful thing. Certainly, you know, it used to be that we would say, ignore them, don't pander to them. But I think these days that's a little bit old fashioned. I think especially if you have a dog, I would say calm reassurance is actually really helpful. So don't overdo it, but certainly if you can see that they're really distressed, there's nothing wrong with just giving them a calm sort of, as you would anyway, just to sort of say, you know, everything's okay, and otherwise go about your normal business. So microchips are really important, making sure that they're up to date, making sure that they're working. And I think finally, you know, do speak with your vet, because there are certainly a lot of supplements that you could try which might help. Anecdotally, they can have a calming effect. There are some with pretty good studies behind them as well to show that they can have a calming effect on your pets. And then obviously in the really severe cases, there is medication as well, which for those dogs that especially maybe the dogs that are particularly petrified of the fireworks, it might be something that you do want to just consider, because it is horrible. You know, it's so distressing seeing dogs really freak out over fireworks. Is something that's, you know, as a pet lover, as a dog lover, we all know how horrible it is to see your pets in distress. And fireworks is one of those things that comes around, it creeps on us. So talk to your vets now as soon as possible and get some advice.